the biggest party of the summer, and it honestly was pretty decent. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dropkicks and Attractions. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. It is Dropkicks and Attractions. I am, of course, your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster, Xander Invictus, joined by your favorite podcaster's second favorite podcaster, Big Bach. How are you, sir?
Doing good tonight, Xander. How about yourself?
Not doing too bad. Actually had a rare Saturday off of work, which doesn't happen very much because it's delivery day at work, so you can imagine.
I can.
Yeah, so I'm enjoying this. I'm taking advantage of this. Gonna kick back and relax, not do anything for the rest of the night because, damn it, I've earned it.
That's going to be what I do, too.
Yep. Of course, we always start this with a drink of the day, sir. What are you drinking tonight?
Today is Diet Dew, same as usual.
There you go. And I found this out yesterday. I got off work yesterday. I went to the grocery store. Monster has a new flavor.
What flavor is it?
It is Ultra Fantasy Ruby Red. It's actually grapefruit.
Cool.
It's actually not bad.
I do like grapefruit, but it's a contraindication on one of my meds, so I can't have it.
That you know of.
That I know of, yes.
I kind of want to see that. Just like I want to see what happens if we get you to smoke weed for the first time. That would be amazing.
It'll happen someday.
Anyways, we are doing one. Okay. Disclaimer, we were supposed to have a guest for SummerSlam, but unfortunately, we couldn't get our schedules to line up because of, everybody's schedules are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking right around sometime after May, because right now he's basically scheduled out for the rest of the month, which happens. If you're trying to get a hold of people with wildly different schedules, shit like this happens. We're working on it. Our next pay-per-view coming up is Fall Brawl with the mention of
War Games.
And that's what we're looking at right now. So we'll get in contact here in the next week or so, see if, how that shores up with our schedule, and we'll figure something out.
Right.
Because I'm actually going to be they are also a podcaster. I'm actually going to be a guest on their show, I think, sometime in May. I'll have to check the exact date.
Good for you, Xander.
Yeah. But this is, again, a pay-per-view episode where the entire episode is just the pay-per-view, and we are covering SummerSlam 93.
I had a really good time watching this.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just going to say this right now. I think this was the best pay-per-view they had for the year.
Not a lot of competition, but still.
I mean, it could be worse. It could be WrestleMania 9.
True.
Yeah. But this is actually August 30th, 93 in Auburn Hills, Michigan, suburban Detroit, which I'm honestly not surprised because, a lot of times that the stadiums for different sports teams were always in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't a new thing.
Right.
And I noticed, and right off the bat, there was something that just sticks in my craw. This just goes from somebody that, I did a handful of wrestling shows about 10 years ago. No. Oh, God, longer than 10 years ago. I left 10 years ago, so 12 years ago. The Lexus Express is pulling up at 6:02 p.m. The show most pay-per-views usually start, about 8 o'clock?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So the bus is pulling up with, one half of your main event 2 hours before the show starts. Usually the doors open, usually about an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So about a half hour before they let people in, your main event's showing up.
Right, kind of a bad look.
Yeah. Like, it's a whole thing. It's the whole bus. We're pushing. The Lexus Express is the story of this show.
Right.
It's always, there was usually always a call time where everybody needed to be there by a certain time. That way you can make sure everybody's there. We can go and set up. You got time to get ready. A lot of times you would stretch or do, work out in the ring a little bit, go over your match.
If something happens, you have time to change plans.
Exactly. Not rolling up 2 hours before the show actually goes live.
Right.
It's a thing. I know some wrestlers, which I would never say I was a wrestler, I just trained. But I know there's wrestlers out there that always found this weird too.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, now there's sometimes where it makes sense to me. Where it's like, oh, so-and-so wasn't supposed to be here tonight. And like say something happens and then they pull up in a car at the last second. Cool. Mm-hmm. I can work with that. They weren't supposed to be there. So them showing up, half hour before the show ends type thing.
Travel problems.
No, or it's just like, how like Razor Ramon last week, where Razor Ramon wasn't supposed to, he wasn't there.
Right.
So if Razor Ramon shows up at the end of Raw In storyline, that makes sense to me because he technically wasn't supposed to be there.
Gotcha.
But if we know that, I'm just using him because once again, he wasn't supposed to be because of the 1-2-3 kid match last week.
Right.
He wasn't ringside, so we can assume maybe he wasn't there. But if we know Razor Ramon has a match, and he shows up an hour before said match,
right,
that's where it bugs me.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm tracking.
Yeah, so this is this whole thing. And we show open, and we're going to have Vince and Bobby on commentary, which I thought they were awesome.
Yeah, they did a great job tonight.
Yeah, so we get the opening package. I don't know if you noticed, guys, but Lex Luger's going to be here tonight.
I never would have guessed.
No. And we open up with our first match of the night. It's going to be the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase versus Razor Ramon. And one thing that I noticed right off the bat, does Bobby Heenan know any other Cubans besides Desi Arnaz?
Good question.
We got more Lucy references this week.
And I found myself wondering, this is kind of a heel versus heel match, but then I remembered you had talked about this is where he kind of turns face.
Oh, he had already done... You remember when they did the segment about a month ago where Razor Ramon's in the ring with Money Inc. and they start talking shit to him, wanting him to be his servant, and then he goes after him or whatever because they're teasing him because he lost to the 1-2-3 kid. Remember?
Right. Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, Razor's basically full-blown face by this point.
Gotcha.
So it's a traditional face versus heel. And speaking of which, Ted does start the match. He attacks Razor Ramon from behind right off the bat, which, I mean, if he's the bigger guy, it's a smart thing to do.
He's got some nasty chops.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ted's an old-school territory wrestler.
Gotcha.
But Razor Ramon does get into control for, I would say, the middle, almost a middle third.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. No, this was a great starting match. Afterwards, Ted does ram him into the turnbuckle. He goes back into control. Slow it down a little bit more, the slower technical pace that Ted was very good at.
Oh, yeah, and you can see that in this match.
Yeah, and then at one point, towards the latter half of the match, Ted goes for a rear chin lock. And they always say when you work out, somebody has like a well-developed biceps or forearms or lats or quads, right? This is the first time I've heard somebody talk about how somebody has a well-developed Adam's apple.
It's on the throat. Get in there. Well, it's not really. It's just that Razor Ramon has a bigger Adam's apple than most guys. So
I see.
Oh, yeah, that was funny.
So apparently that's a thing. Apparently he's born with it. He was born with a very large Adam's apple. So congratulations to Scott Hall on his engorged Adam's apple. Mazel tov. But yeah, so Ted's going to do what Ted does what Ted do. He's going to pull off one of the turnbuckle pads. And of course that goes to bite him in the ass because a couple minutes later, Razor throws him into he smacks him against the turnbuckle and he has the Razor's Edge for the win.
7 minutes, 32 seconds. Very good opening match.
Yeah, great opener. This was what I would consider almost a perfect opening match because it's not too long. It was a match that you knew was going to get the crowd excited especially because both guys could go. They knew each other well. I think this was probably the best opener that they could have used for the show.
I agree.
Yeah. However, this would actually be Ted DiBiase's last match as a wrestler for WWF.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because beginning in 94, he had developed, I think he had like a neck or a back injury that forced him to retire as a wrestler.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so he would still manage until I want to say about the next couple of years afterwards. He would have the $1 Million Corporation. He would also manage the Ringmaster, who would go on to become Stone Cold Steve Austin, as if that man needed a mouthpiece.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so yeah, this is actually Ted DiBiase's last. I would say I think it's televised match. His last televised match. So we go to ringside, and good old Todd, who in doses, Todd Pettingill's not bad. I can see how he could be a much for a lot of people. I don't mind him.
Yeah, I don't mind him either. Not from what I've seen.
Yeah, we are ringside with the Steiner brothers' mom and sister. The mom has no idea what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, they're both kind of just nodding and smiling through this.
Well, they are. It's just like Todd's like, so, hey, Mama Steiner, when the boys were doing Frankensteiners, did you tell them not to do Frankensteiners by the good lap? She's like, yeah, sure, whatever you want. Yeah, we'll go ahead and go with that. I'm just like, did you not, like, she was just like, yeah, sure, I'll just say yes to whatever you're saying. She just basically just blew up the whole segment.
She was lost.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, okay, cool, that sounds fine. Great. Yep, sounds good. Awesome. The sister was a little bit better, but the mom was basically like, I don't know what the fuck you're saying, dude.
Right.
I'm just here to be on camera. I don't know what the fuck you're saying. Sure.
Yeah, just nod your head and smile.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. And then while they're talking, Jim Cornette starts coming down because we do get the tag title match, which is where I found a lot. Oh, you want to talk about obscure shit? Ladies and gentlemen, we do have the WWF tag titles. It is the Steiner Brothers defending against the Heavenly Bodies with Jim Cornette. And biggest pop of the night go to the Steiner Brothers.
How about that?
Yeah, who are from Bay City, Michigan, which I looked up, looks like around Central Michigan. Apparently, Bay City's big enough for 3 high schools, and Steiner Brothers went to 1. And because, I just like to be like, all right, who else is from Bay City, Apparently, the guy from Avis Rent-A-Car, whose last name was Avis, that founded the company, is from Bay City. But true crime and horror movie fans are going to enjoy this. John List is from Bay City. He went to a rival high school.
I think I watched an episode of Forensic Files about that guy.
Yeah, what had happened? So you're actually familiar with John List was a man who murdered his family. We're going to get all true crime here for a second, folks. But you know me, I like finding, did you know? John List was a gentleman from Bay City who murdered his family and went into hiding, I think it was, for almost 30 years?
I don't remember how they found him, but yeah, it's been a long time, and I did see an episode of Forensic Files about the List murders.
America's Most Wanted. He was the first person ever caught by America's Most Wanted.
Oh, really? Did not know that.
He was the very first person caught by America's Most Wanted. This tells you how long he was gone, or long he had
Holy
disappeared.
Crap!
Yeah, he was captured number 1. Because I used to watch America. That was in our house on Saturday night. It was Cops and America's Most Wanted. So I used to watch that show weekly.
Mm-hmm.
But so you're talking, yeah, he was number 1. But horror movie fans will understand because they had used the John List idea, the whole murder his family and then disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a remake, but I haven't seen it yet. But there's a trio of movies that I enjoy called The Stepfather, where starring Terry O'Quinn. Most people will know him from Lost. He was the bald guy from Lost.
Mm-hmm.
He's a character actor, been in so many different things. Great guy. He played the guy in the first 2, where he was basically he was a serial killer. He would kill a family, go to the next town, assume an identity, and do it all over again.
Oh, wow.
He was in the first 2. I actually saw the second one first. My mom rented the second one from the video store.
Gotcha.
But basically, that was the whole thing. He would get in with the family. Shit would go south. And,
Yeah.
And then they did have a third one. I think it was direct-to-TV. I remember watching it on... the first time I saw it was Showtime in, 2004 at, 2 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
We're, a lot of the movies I watch are usually on at 2 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I watch.
Yeah, I know.
And I like how they at least explain how it's like, oh, you don't have Terry O'Quinn. How do you explain that it's the same guy? Oh, he got plastic surgery at the beginning of the movie. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's a good way, an easy way to explain it, but it works.
Yeah, then it's like, oh, it also looked like the freaking plastic surgeon was the same guy from Batman '89. Just the way how dingy and dirty the surgeon looked.
Oh, wow.
That's the reference. If you remember that scene, that's what the office looked like. He found it in an alley somewhere. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so he's from the same town as the Steiner Brothers.
Gotcha.
And I looked this up, and this is the one thing I noticed is, of course, the Heavenly Bodies jump him, and they start attacking the beginning of the match. They go for a double suplex on Rick, and it looked like Rick jumped before they started doing the suplex.
Yeah, I saw that. It was close, though.
Yeah, but I think Rick had a fraction of a second head start. And this is the funny thing. I had to look this up because you know how curious I am.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, Bobby kept talking about the Steiner Brothers' home at 18714 Grand River Avenue in Detroit.
I noticed that.
He said that specific address, many times. I looked it up.
What's there?
Not a house.
Ha!
I don't know what was there in 93. I don't know if it was a pet shop or whatever. Because you remember, this is 93. We're in 2024.
Right.
As of right now, you go in the big cities and you have the little small thing. It's 3 shops next to each other.
Uh-huh.
That's what it is. As of right now, there's a nail salon and a couple other businesses there.
Okay.
So I don't know what was there in 93 because I'm not from the area. But there had to have been something specifically there, a specific store for him to say that specific address more than once.
Right.
So I'm trying to think if Bobby would have been a pet store or some sort of business. But right now it's a nail salon.
Mm-hmm.
Because I looked it up today.
Gotcha.
And I wondered if the Bay City Rollers were from Bay City, Michigan. You know, the rock band?
Mm-hmm.
No, they're actually from Scotland.
Huh.
And I do also notice that, you know, the first part of this match was the Steiner brothers. So the Heavenly Bodies powder out and they start talking to Jim Cornette. And he starts wigging out like, "Why are you talking to me? Why are you guys so close? We're strategizing." And then Vince says something that he wishes him well when Cornette says something.
You want me to have an aneurysm?
Easy, Jimmy.
That's not
easy.
a bad idea.
Yeah, Cornette's histrionics throughout this match are hilarious.
Yeah. And Vince is like, "I don't give a fuck if he dies. Okay, I don't give a shit." And I do notice that Bobby Heenan is talking trash about the University of Michigan. No notes, go Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Vince is like, "Oh, that's they're blue and yellow." And Vince is like, "No, they're blue and gold." I'm like, "Vince, no.
I think it's maize and gold, isn't it?
It's maize and blue."
Oh, right, maize is gold. Derby.
Yeah. Like, even as a Buckeyes fan, trust me, I know it's maize and blue. It's the actual shade of yellow they're using. It's not gold, because my high school colors are blue and gold.
Mm-hmm.
It's maize and blue.
Right.
So, but yeah, as long as Bobby's talking shit about the University of Michigan, I'm not going to say anything. Once again, go Bucks.
Neat spot in the middle of the match. Jimmy gets whipped and does a baseball slide under Scott while Tom hits a bulldog on him. I like that.
Yeah, that was about the time that the Bodies actually took over. And then all Bodies for several minutes, they work on Scott a little bit. He gets the tag to Rick, and they actually work on Rick for a little bit. And according to Bobby, because Bobby has a point system, like, you know, you have for boxing and MMA and everything.
Right.
According to Bobby, to his system, the Heavenly Bodies are head on points 1,112 to 9.
Wow.
According to his system.
Because we all know that his system is totally unbiased.
Of course. Like I said, the Steiners could come back. Like, again, they're only about, just under 1,110 points away.
Indeed.
But, yeah, this was great. Like, fantastic tag work from both teams. And we get towards the end where Pritchard has Scott. He's holding Scott up so Jimmy Del Rey can hit a moonsault. Rick pushes Scott away so the bad guys collide. And then Scott hits the Frankensteiner for the win.
9 minutes, 29 seconds, but all four men were in the ring. Cornette's going to complain later about why was that allowed.
Yeah, it's a whole rules are rules when they're rules.
Right.
All four men were in the ring, so it wasn't like a full thing. And you do have, technically, according to this rule book, you do have a 5 count.
Gotcha.
So technically there is a 5 count. But once again, now if the bad guys would have won with all the guys in the ring, he wouldn't have said anything. You know how it is.
Yeah.
By the way, second match in, it's already my favorite match of the entire show. This match was fantastic.
Yeah, this match was very good. I agree. I'm not sure it's my favorite, though.
There's one other match I think if I had to have a second place would be, which we're going to get towards the end of the show, but right now, this is my favorite match of the whole show. And that's not saying that the rest of the show's garbage.
The whole show is solid, except for one.
Yeah, we already know which match is going to be the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But this match was my favorite match of the whole show. So we do get Joe Fowler, who, I'll be nice, I am not a fan.
He did just okay, but compared to what we've seen from other interviewers, not so much.
He's only going to be around for a few months, honestly. He's basically Howard Finkel's replacement. He's not going to be around very long.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, once again, not trying to talk too much trash, but to me, and I'm going to go old school Simpsons, so you might even get this reference.
Uh-huh.
He sounds like the pimply face kid.
Oh gosh, now I can't unhear it.
Guys, can I have your tickets, please? Tickets, please. Snacks are over at the concession stand. That's the first thing I thought of. He sounded like the pimply face kid from The Simpsons.
Yeah, I know exactly which character you mean.
Yeah, guys, I'm back here with HBK and Diesel. Sean, you got your Intercontinental title match going up against Mr. Perfect. Once again, no ill will towards Joe, but I couldn't get that image out of my head once he started talking.
Right, and it just kind of ruined it for you.
No, I found it hilarious because now I just thought it was that character every time.
Fair.
Guys, I'm here with Jim Cornette and Yokozuna. Jim, what kind of strategies you got going in about your title match with Lex Luger? And now you're never going to get that image out of your head every time you see him now.
No, I'm not.
You're welcome. We actually get words from Diesel, too. And it wasn't bad.
Yeah, Diesel basically just said, I'm here to keep the ladies off of Sean.
Yeah, there's so many ladies, and, Big Daddy Cool gets a piece.
So very many.
Which, I mean, he did have his share.
Mm-hmm.
But so we actually get to that match. We're already on our second of 3 title matches.
Mm-hmm.
For the Intercontinental title, it is going to be Shawn Michaels with Diesel defending against Mr. Perfect. And we do notice that the duo I actually want to hear, they had Radio WWF, which they would, broadcast around the world. You could listen to it like radio, like any other sporting event. I've listened to football and baseball and stuff like that on the radio before.
I've done that too.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, what would it sound like for wrestling?
Mm-hmm.
But the duo we got for Radio WWF, and I kind of want to see if I can find this somewhere. JR and Gorilla Monsoon.
Yes, yeah, I can imagine those two working together would be really good.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is the one knock I would have against it. Once again, we know we love JR here. You know I'm a big Gorilla Monsoon fan.
Mm-hmm.
It's two play-by-play guys.
Right, I see what you're getting at.
Yeah. Traditionally, you want to have a play-by-play and you want to color. JR and Gorilla are both play-by-play.
Gotcha.
So I have a feeling that they would probably put, only because Gorilla was a wrestler way back in the day, I have a feeling that they would put him on color because traditionally, color commentator would be like the wrestler or the basketball player. Like Bill Walton would always kind of like be the color guy for like sporting events.
Gotcha.
So I have a feeling that's what if I haven't heard it yet, so I have a feeling it would probably be JR doing play-by-play and Gorilla doing color.
Mm-hmm.
Because speaking of Gorilla, we had our 2024 WWE Hall of Fame inductee Muhammad Ali, who was one of the special enforcers at WrestleMania 1.
Oh, really? I think you've mentioned that.
Yeah, he was actually supposed to be the special guest referee, but they changed stuff around because he's like, I ain't afraid to punch somebody in the face.
Gotcha.
Gorilla Monsoon, there was a moment where Gorilla Monsoon famously, because Muhammad Ali was a big wrestling fan.
Mm-hmm.
There was a famous moment where Gorilla Monsoon actually put Muhammad Ali in an airplane spin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyways, this is actually a relative. This is the thing about this match. It was good. It wasn't bad. I don't think they got out of like first or second gear.
You see, it was very basic. I was struggling to find things to note as I was taking my notes.
But it wasn't bad. But at the same time, when you tell me that I'm getting, and I get this is not like my favorite Shawn Michaels was anything after 2002 because I don't think he was even at his peak until after he came back from his back injury.
Mm-hmm.
This is still good Shawn Michaels. Like we've seen good Shawn Michaels so far this year. When you tell me we're getting Shawn Michaels versus Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental title,
you're expecting him to tear the house down.
Yeah, and I didn't get that. And it's like, yeah, the match is good, but it wasn't what I was expecting.
Right. And I have one of those too.
Yeah, like this is the one I was just like, because you and I were talking about this, the build towards SummerSlam. This was the match I was most looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Because once again, Shawn Michaels is one of the all-time greats. Mr. Perfect is one of my favorites, and I did a lot. He was one of the guys I was emulating when I was training to be a pro wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing the neck snap. I was learning how to do a fisherman suplex because of Mr. Perfect. I would watch him do it over and over and over again just to make sure I did it the way he did it.
Right.
Like there was the match I watched a lot because I just happened to have it on DVD was the match in Survivor Series 92 when it was Perfect and Savage versus Razor Ramon and Ric Flair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, when did he clasp his hands? When did he do this? Like, he was one of the guys I emulated. So, to me, and I think it was, like, once again, it wasn't a bad match, but I don't think they got out of first gear. So, I was a little bit disappointed because I wasn't getting in my head what I wanted.
Right. It didn't meet your expectations.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't bad. I just didn't get what I wanted.
Right.
Like, and I'm not expecting, we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more matches, and the one match is technically 3, which we'll get into in a minute. So this is still early, so you're not expecting them to go 45 minutes or whatever.
Right.
But I could have got a little bit more higher gear, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And I did notice Vince was, at one point, Shawn had Mr. Perfect in like a backbreaker stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's kind of put him in the backbreaker and you kind of bend him over your knee to try to get that submission.
Right.
Vince is like, oh, we need to hurry up because, Mr. Perfect's never tapped out, for a match. And I'm like, yeah, he has. Matter of fact, it was in Survivor Series, or not Survivor Series, SummerSlam 91. It was in Madison Square Garden. It was, by the way, if you want to watch a fantastic SummerSlam match with Mr. Perfect. It was Mr. Perfect versus Bret Hart, and this is when Bret Hart won the Intercontinental title for the first time.
Okay.
He won with a sharpshooter, so he won by submission. Basically, and I've seen Bret Hart's done this spot a couple times, and it's fantastic, where Mr. Perfect had him in a figure four, and while he was laying down, Bret was able to flip around, turn around, and lock in the sharpshooter out of the figure four.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's SummerSlam 91 was Bret Perfect. Amazing match.
All right, viewers, that's your homework for this week.
Or you could also watch SummerSlam 92, where it was Bret Bulldog for the Intercontinental title.
Ah.
So there's been better Intercontinental title matches before.
Right.
But yeah, if you want to watch a good Mr. Perfect match from SummerSlam 91.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I may do that after we're done.
Yeah. Just, pop it on Peacock. I might watch SummerSlam. I might watch wrestling tonight. I don't know what I'm doing. I usually watch the same shit. I always say I'm going to watch wrestling. Never do unless it's for this.
So yeah, I go back to my comfort shows a lot.
Same. Or I have a list of YouTube videos I have open as tabs that I need to watch.
I do that too.
That's my weakness.
All right, one more thing I'd like to note.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to the finish, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Bobby was talking about how Mr. Perfect is a second-generation wrestler, which I did not know.
Uh-huh.
So I did some research. His father is Larry the Axe Hennig. I did not recognize that name. But Mr. Perfect's son is Curtis Axel.
Yeah. Larry Hennig was AWA, so you're talking 70s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where Mr. Perfect, got most of his notoriety pre-WWF was AWA.
Right.
So he was Larry the Axe Hennig, which is where the axe in Axel comes from.
Ah. Didn't put that together somehow.
Well, once again, I don't know if I've seen more than maybe a couple Larry Hennig matches.
Mm-hmm.
This was years before I was born. Because Curt Hennig was a former AWA World Champion. He was also a tag team champion with none other in the AWA with none other than Scott Hall.
Oh, didn't know that one.
Yeah. So and I think at one point him and his dad did tag up together, but yeah. He was basically known primarily in AWA. So that's where you get the Kurt from Curt Hennig and the Axel from Larry the Axe Hennig.
Right.
So yeah, Curt Hennig's actually a second generation wrestler.
Mm-hmm. And I have seen some of Curtis Axel from when I started following the weekly shows back in 2014.
Yeah. But yeah, we get to the end. Perfect does hit the Perfect Plex, but Diesel pulls him out of the ring when the ref was distracted, and they little scuffle. He gets thrown into the Curt Hennig gets thrown into the ring post and gets counted out.
10 minutes and 20 seconds. Looking back now, I agree with it was solid, but it was underwhelming.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good.
It wasn't like you said, it wasn't what you would expect from this match.
Yeah. And I'm sure that these guys have had matches elsewhere, which was fantastic. This might have just not been the night for these two.
Right.
Because I remember reading an interview from Kofi Kingston, who wrestled Dolph Ziggler hundreds of times, where they would do each other a house show, have a match, and it just didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But they would have the exact same match, do the exact same things the next night, and tore the house down. There's, you got the intangibles.
Right.
This could have just been one of those matches where the intangibles just worked against them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would love to see a Shawn Michaels Mr. Perfect match.
Gotcha.
So after that, we get Joe Fowler with 1-2-3 Kid, and this actually somehow makes the 1-2-3 Kid sound mature.
Like, how do you do that?
Guys, I'm here with the 1-2-3 Kid, and your eyebrows are looking good. But he basically just goes, so what are you going to do that this guy's basically better than you in every way possible? How are you going to win? Okay, Joe, you're kind of a dick.
And Kid doesn't have much of a response.
But, I mean, I get the Kid because the Kid response doesn't bother me, though, because this whole thing, he's basically like, look, I've basically just been thrust in here out of nowhere. I don't like, it's the whole clip from, I keep talking about Talladega Nights.
Mm-hmm.
And where they're interviewing Will Ferrell's Ricky Bobby at the beginning of the movie, and he keep raising his hands, and he goes, I don't know what to do with my hands. Because every time they would interview him, he would just bring his hands up to the screen. Like he's shrugging, and they're like, no, you don't have to do that. And he goes, I don't know what to do with my... Like, that's what the Kid reminds me of. He goes, yo, a month ago, I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
That's why this doesn't... The 1-2-3 Kids, all shrugs doesn't bother me as much.
Mm-hmm.
because it's part of the charm. He's like, I'm just going to go out there and try to do the best I can. And Joe's like, but he's better than you. Joe,
harsh, man.
yeah. But we do get this match that it is the 1, 2, 3 kid versus IRS.
And I noted, as you called it, IRS got the jobber entrance.
Yeah. Where it was just like, he's already on the ring, always doing the same thing. You guys are tag sheets, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
This is all IRS from the start. And I noticed something. I learned something today.
What did you learn?
Okay, IRS's name is Erwin R. Shyster. That's his name. Bach, for the actual government agency, what does IRS stand for?
Internal Revenue Service.
Exactly. So, according to Bobby, because we're talking about middle names again. Because, what does the R stand for? And Bobby says his middle name is Revenue. So, according to Bobby Heenan, if I put all my context clues together from doing the show and watching IRS as a kid, IRS's full name, ladies and gentlemen, is Erwin Revenue Shyster.
Oh, my.
No wonder he became an accountant. And if my name was Erwin Revenue Shyster, I would learn how to punch people in the face too. So everything is just full circle.
Right.
But I was just like, oh, I learned today that's what the R stands for. Apparently it also stands for revenue. Apparently it's somebody's middle name.
Because of course it is.
But yeah, this wasn't a bad match. Like I knew it was going in. They're going to, kid's going to get thrown around right now. This was just a match to, he's the plucky underdog. Is he going to win?
Probably not.
Yeah, spoiler alert, he doesn't. It wasn't a bad match. This really wasn't. Like, this is, kid's going to get thrown around. He's going to do his flying high spots real quick. And we've already established that IRS, or Mike Rotunda, was a noted, highly successful collegiate wrestler at Syracuse. So you get the two different styles, and it did what it did. The match do what it does. Does what it do. IRS does get the win with, he calls it the write-off, and that actually was the name of his finisher, the flying clothesline. It was known as the write-off.
Did not know that.
For the win.
5 minutes, 44 seconds. Once again, solid.
This was one of the better matches. Right now, I honestly thought this was better than the last match, only because I got what I was expecting. It was solid. This is a no notes. So we go once again. Todd, who is with Bruce and Owen Hart, and I did notice. I don't know if you guys noticed this, that Owen Hart was actually in the dark match tonight.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Owen Hart did defeat Barry Horowitz in the dark match tonight. So there's that for you. And we find out after all this happens, rocking cowboy boots, the finest leather pants, and a shirt and tie.
Oh, yes.
We're going to talk about this. This is a one match that's technically 3 matches.
Yeah.
And we'll go through this. And I actually enjoyed this because we're going to rate this basically as the entire segment.
Right.
This is a very long segment. So Bret Hart comes out first. We're supposed to be getting Bret Hart versus Jerry the King Lawler. Basically, who's the true king of the ring in the WWF.
Right.
And so Bret Hart comes out. Out comes Jerry Lawler on crutches because apparently
there's fuckery afoot.
Yeah. What?
So yeah, we get a quick interview between Jerry and Todd Pettengill. It's pretty standard heel, fuck this place, fuck everyone in it promo. And he says he hurt his knee in a car crash.
Okay, because what had happened, apparently since we're talking about Avis earlier, maybe it was Avis, maybe it was Enterprise, budget,
maybe.
Who knows? So according to Jerry, he got into his car, he rented a limo, and then drove said limo. Because if you remember the promo, he said he drove the car.
Because that makes sense.
Yes, because I don't know about you, I have ridden in a limo a few times. I don't know about yourself.
I have not.
Okay, here's the thing. You don't drive your own limo. So apparently Jerry, rents a limo from the airport, which I don't think airports rent limos. You can, there's car services or whatever, sure, but I don't think you can go to, I'm just going to use Avis because we talked about it earlier. I don't think you can use Avis to rent a friggin' stretch.
Probably not.
And this reminds me of the scene from the 40-Year-Old Virgin. It was one of the funnier lines in the movie, which I love this movie. And this is the part it reminded me of. Yeah, so why were you late? He goes, there was a fire and I was trying to save it from a baby. So basically what Jerry says is that he was driving his own limo. Once again, you don't drive your own limo. And then he was like a blue-haired lady who should have had her license revoked 50 years ago, pulled out in front of him. And apparently there was, because they talk about this throughout the match too, there was, because we'll figure out throughout this whole segment here, there was a, what they call it, 1820 car pile up, flames and twisted metal and Jerry Lawler helped pull kids out of a flaming school bus, and
Like the end of the city, if you believe him.
basically Jerry Lawler saved Detroit. So he can't wrestle. And apparently the doctors just told him just before he's coming out to the inner area on crutches with an ice pack on his knee. He's already in his gear. So he comes, saves Detroit, changes into his gear, then he puts on crutches and an ice pack. Then right before he goes to the ring, the doctors tell him he can't wrestle.
Because that's believable.
Oh, I'm not done yet. Because all of a sudden, everybody's against Bret Hart. All these wrestlers say they want to fight. Remember, this is all happening right away.
Right.
So he decides that he's going to come out and his self-appointed court jester is going to wrestle him. And so we go from Bret Hart versus Jerry Lawler to Bret Hart versus
Doink.
And you know what? What we've seen of Doink, this could be really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I looked it up. It's still Matt Bourne under the mask, and we know he's good. So this had a lot of potential.
Yeah, and you know what? This match was really good. And I do notice that, they're going through this, and once again, it's very solid. We know Bret Hart's considered one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen how good Doink is, or at least Matt Bourne is, on a technical level.
Right.
Extremely even match.
Yeah, they're trading back and forth pretty much the entire time.
Yeah, this match could have gone either way. And I did notice one line where Doink's on top, and Bret kind of crotches him on the top rope.
Yeah, that's no fun.
No, especially when they said he got bedoinked.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I think it was Vince that said he got bedoinked.
Around that same time, there was another funny line from Bobby.
Jerry the King Lawler was the king long before Bret Hart ever even thought about the 4 words K-I-N-G.
No, those are letters, Bobby, not words.
Yeah. So Doink actually does get it lock in the stump puller, and he locks it in deep, and he has it in for a good while.
Mm-hmm.
Before he gets caught grabbing the rope, so the ref kicks it out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then he does go for the whoopee cushion. Doesn't work.
Yep, Bret gets the knees up. Landing like that must be painful.
Oh, considering that's all tailbone.
Yeah.
You got those knees right up the poop chute. And then so Bret does actually lock in Doink in the sharpshooter, but Jerry comes in with a crutch and he beats Bret. Bret does get the DQ win.
Yeah, I didn't hear a second bell, so from first bell to Jerry attacking Bret was 8 minutes, 55 seconds.
And wait, what? Jerry Lawler was faking? Get right out of town!
If you really believe he was faking, I've got some beachfront property in Kentucky to sell you.
I am flummoxed. I am sir, I am offended.
Good for you.
So Doink and Jerry start going to, they're like, we're out of here. Jerry beats the dog shit out of Bret. Like, the first shot broke the crutch right at the base of his neck.
Ouch.
That looked harsh. So they beat Bret down. Bret's down in the ring, and so they just start to leave. And Jack Tunney comes out, the president of WWF,
right,
and says that if Lawler does not wrestle, he gets banned for a month.
No, banned for life.
Oh, I thought I heard a month.
No, life. He said life.
Okay, well then I misheard it. So banned for life. Well, okay, so I was going to say at first, like, banned for a month. I'm like, all right, see you in a month.
And so we get a second match, Bret versus King.
Yeah, and I noticed that Bobby actually said that according to Jerry Lawler's injuries, he's damaged clavicle that's wrapped around the knee.
Your clavicle's your collarbone. I've broken both of mine before.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was just like, wait a minute. If his clavicle is wrapped around his knee and he's wrestling, good on you, sir, because just the amount of, like, well done. If you can unwrap your clavicle from around your knee and be able to wrestle at a high level, hey, good on you. But I guess this is no DQ because they're just using the crutch the whole match just to beat the shit out of each other.
Oh yeah, this was a brawl and I loved it.
Yeah. So Bret does lock in the sharpshooter. We do get the final bell.
Yep. From the second starting bell to the ending bell, 6 minutes 33.
Yeah. And then here's the thing. Bret locks it in. He does not let go.
Yeah, he holds it for a good 4 minutes, I think.
I think they measured it at about 3.5. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. You're stretching the stretch out of somebody's back, their legs. Trust me, it's a painful hold.
Yikes.
And Bobby kind of was right at this point because we saw Danny Davis. We saw Tim White. We saw Bill Alfonso was there. Who are the other refs I saw? There was a bunch of refs in there, the agents. They're just standing around telling him to break it. They're not trying to physically get in there and break it. Jerry Lawler or Bobby's like, yeah, you have like 12 people in there. Why the hell are you not breaking this up?
Right.
And then, honestly, so Brett, this is about 3.5 minutes. Brett finally breaks it, and because Bill Alfonso was the ref, he actually reverses the decision, and Jerry Lawler actually wins this by reverse decision.
Yeah, reverse disqualification.
Yeah, which you don't see a reverse decision happen very often.
Right.
So, yeah, Jerry Lawler is now the quote-unquote, not like Brett doesn't lose the title of the tournament thing, because this was all who like the real king is. Jerry Lawler, technically, according to this, is the real king of the WWF. We get a tape vignette for our first match. It's our first, for at least for the show, it's our first real look at Ludwig Borga, who is apparently in New Detroit because he looks like he's on the set of RoboCop.
Oh yeah, that was an ugly set he was on.
I'm sure it was actually in Detroit, but I was just getting RoboCop vibes. Because RoboCop's one of the greatest movies ever. But basically, he says that America is crumbling. He's like, oh yeah, pollution and no jobs, and like at one point, because we're going to get into the point where we're going to get Marty Jannetty versus Ludwig Borga. Vince is like, I kind of like Vince's point. He's like, if you don't like it, get the fuck out.
Right.
But it was just like, we talked about those earlier with like all these foreign heels. It's like, I don't like America. Why are you here?
Right. Yeah. You've said that before with foreign heel, I hate America promos.
Then why are you here? But man, that's what this is. And then now we were actually supposed to get, and I would have really liked this match, Marty Jannetty versus Rick Martel.
Yeah, Rick Martel's, we've seen a little bit of him on the show, not a whole bunch, but I like what I have seen.
Yeah. Oh, I grew up with Rick Martel. I really like his stuff. So getting a Marty Jannetty versus Rick Martel singles match, I would have loved that match. On paper is great.
Gotcha.
But we're going to get Ludwig Borg. And I knew this was going to be a squash, but this was an extended squash because, you know, Marty is established as a wrestler.
He didn't get completely crushed.
Yeah. One of my favorite moves in this, like Marty did have this at the very beginning until Borga took over, and then it was him for the rest of the match. Popped up Marty Jannetty, and remember when we did the Thunderdome, or was it Thunder Cage? First episode of Clash of the Champions.
The Thunder Cage. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, where Vader had popped up Sting and then socked him in the gut on the way down.
Yeah.
Borga did the exact same move to Marty Jannetty.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I love that move.
Yeah, I actually put in my notes to highlight that.
Yeah, it was a great move. And this was basically that this was all Borga after that point. Because he also says that during the vignette, he's coming for Luger. So we're going to get the foreign heel versus the All-American wrestler. That's never happened before in wrestling.
It happens all the time. Don't kick yourself.
That was the point. That was sarcasm.
Right.
I need to get a mop to mop up all the sarcasm that drip from that statement. But, and I think this is why he was doing this. He locked in and ended up locking in the torture rack for the win on Marty.
5 minutes, 15 seconds.
You know what? I didn't mind this because it did what it was supposed to.
Right. It got Borga over.
Yeah. And the fact that he's using the torture rack, which Lex is known to use as his finisher. And then we also know that he's going after Lex Luger.
Right.
It all like, cool. I'm down with this. I'm great. And here's the thing. We're already promoting Survivor Series in August.
Gonna say, yeah, Bobby and Vince talked about it a little bit.
It's in November.
We're 3 months away.
Yeah. Speaking of a match that felt like 3 months, we're getting our Rest in Peace match that to this day in 2024, we have no idea what the fuck a Rest in Peace match is.
It's never been explained?
No. We do know. Well, basically, it is The Undertaker's going against Giant Gonzalez, who now, instead of having a furry suit, they just airbrush the fur on his suit. All we know that it's no DQ, no count out.
Right.
Harvey Wolfman comes out in his finest purple suit with Giant Gonzalez, who we looked this up, who's built at 8 foot tall, but he legitimately was 7'7".
I think that's the biggest person I've ever seen.
Yeah, I looked this up. He is considered the tallest person ever because he's Argentinian.
Right.
In real life, Giant Gonzalez is Argentinian. He is the tallest person in the history of Argentina. This is real. And the third tallest person in the history of South America.
Oh, wow.
Or at least tied for third. He's up there. He's one of the tallest people ever in the world. And I think he's also the tallest wrestler in either WWF or WCW.
Wow.
Like, I don't even think Omos is that tall. Hold on, let me pull up Omos' stats. Because Omos is literally over 7 foot tall, too.
Yeah, Omos is huge.
Like, legitimately over 7 foot.
Mhm.
He is billed at 7'3". So even in real life, Giant Gonzalez is taller than Omos.
Wow.
Like, and Omos has got to be, once again, he's billed at 7'3".
Right.
So he's got to be close.
Mm-hmm.
And Omos is a massive dude.
Probably the largest person I've seen in WWE since I first started watching.
Yeah. By the way, I am an Omos fan. I like me some Omos.
I like him too.
Yeah. But basically, this just seemed like a fight with no DQ. This really wasn't like, if you didn't like the match at WrestleMania, you're not going to like this.
Yeah, this was very underwhelming.
The only thing, there was no chloroform in this match. I think that's the only difference between this and WrestleMania is there was no chloroform. I think that's the only difference.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that Bobby's like, to beat him, you're going to need a silver bullet and a cross and garlic. And I'm like, so we know that Undertaker's supposed to be an undead zombie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that also make him a werewolf and a vampire?
Yeah, that makes...
Well, I'm a fucking horror nerd. I know this shit.
Right.
But we've established that he's basically undead, so he's a zombie.
Right.
Silver in general is a weakness for werewolves.
Right.
Garlic and stakes or crosses or whatever, traditionally weaknesses for vampires.
Right.
So apparently, according to Bobby, the Undertaker is an undead zombie werewolf vampire.
Because that makes sense.
Electromancer, because he shoots lightning out of his hands too.
Well, vampires can learn magic, at least according to the lore I've seen.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So we have an undead zombie werewolf vampire electromancer, who is also an old-timey Old West mortician, who also becomes a cult leader, who wants to sacrifice people on his symbol, almost like crucifying them, who at one point also becomes a living biker, who then becomes undead again after he loses a buried alive match in 2003.
Undertaker has worn a lot of hats in the WWE.
Yeah. Which Undertaker's it's one of those things, it's the Undertaker, just let it go.
Yeah, just nod your head and smile.
Yeah, basically. So, and by the way, this match was not good.
No.
This was, here's the thing, and this is no ill will against Giant Gonzalez, especially since he's no longer with us. He passed away, 10 years ago. He was not a very good wrestler.
He really wasn't, and that's unfortunate.
This was his one speed. And there's nothing you could really do. And, even when he was El Gigante in WCW, you didn't get anything other than this. Because he was drafted, he played basketball in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was on some national teams in Argentina.
Right.
Because obviously tall people always play basketball, apparently.
Of course.
Got drafted by the Hawks, actually, the Atlanta Hawks.
Didn't know that one.
Yeah. Well, once again, how often do you read about Giant Gonzalez wikis?
Right, you don't. Well, I don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, Giant Gonzalez, he was drafted in the second round, and I just saw this today. This is the only reason this is coming off the top of my head. I'm not a Giant Gonzalez historian. Because I looked up his stats, and I just read the wiki. He was drafted in the second round by the Hawks, and actually him and the guy that got drafted, I want to say 2 or 3 picks later, were the first Argentina players drafted into the NBA.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't even think he played. I don't know. I know he got drafted. I don't know how far he got into playing because he had knee injuries. Ted Turner saw him. Hey, boy, you want to be a wrestler?
Oh, that's how he wound up in WCW.
Yep, because Ted Turner at the time also owned the Hawks.
Wow.
Yeah, he did some wrestling in Japan, but this was basically after this, he moved back to Argentina. This is where he lived the rest of his life. And I will give Harvey Wilperman the credit because he had, once again, a lot of his illnesses, complications came from the fact that how tall he was.
Right.
Because you know what, the real tall people usually have a lot of problems health-wise. To Harvey Wilperman's credit, in real life, because once again, after he got done with wrestling, I want to say no more than about a couple years after this, he moved back to Argentina. He had a family and everything. Harvey Wilperman would send him money to make sure he had enough money for medicine and make sure him and his family had money to survive.
Class act.
Yeah. And a lot of like the Argentinian like basketball communities, like a lot of national teams helped him out a lot because he ended up having to suffer from dialysis and all these other problems. Once again, he was legitimately 7'7". He's considered one of the tallest men in history.
Right.
That's why I said I tried not to be as brutal on Giant Gonzalez because this was basically his moveset.
Right. He could do one thing and that's it.
And it wasn't very good. But it was also because of his size and his lack of mobility.
Right.
Okay. Tangent aside. At one point, Undertaker's down. We think he's not going to win. And then we hear the freaking gong. And you're like, what's the hell's going on? Because Undertaker doesn't come out with Paul Bearer.
He hasn't been.
No. Because remember, we saw how Mr. Hughes laid him out.
Yeah, Mr. Hughes beat the shit out of him.
Beat the dog shit out of him. Out comes Paul Bearer with a black wreath, and the crowd goes crazy for this.
Yeah, that was a loud pop.
Yeah, it was almost up there with the Steiner brothers, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing about Paul Bearer, in real life, was a licensed mortician.
Yeah, like I was curious about that, so I looked him up when I was taking my notes. Like, I hadn't known that.
Yeah, that was half gimmick, half real. He was a licensed mortician.
Mm-hmm.
He comes out with the wreath. Harvey Wolfman throws out the jacket to throw it down. Paul Bearer just lays him the fuck out.
Oh, he got clocked.
I was just like, and then he looks at the urn. The urn looks at him, and you just hear that the music in the background. You're just like, oh my god, it's a reunion.
Bobby is just losing his shit at this point.
Yeah, and then you just see that face, and he goes, oh yeah, like he's
the Paul Bearer face.
Yeah, like Paul Bearer. I think Paul Bearer finished, if you know what I'm saying. Because once he got that urn, he was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Paul Bearer finished. But anyways. So we get to the thing. Undertaker hits, 4 or 5 clotheslines on Gonzalez?
Yeah.
Drops him down to one knee, gets on the top rope, and hits a top rope clothesline for the win.
10 minutes, 4 seconds. Underwhelming.
Oh, that's the nicest. That's nicer than I want to say. This match was easily the worst of the show.
I will agree with that.
And honestly, I don't know which one's worse, this one or WrestleMania. Neither match was even remotely good.
Nope.
After the match, though, however... that, we're getting the whole WrestleMania 6 thing all over again, where Bobby Heenan was talking shit to Andre the Giant. Because this is the moment, like, I caught this, because Andre the Giant, Bobby Heenan had managed Andre the last few years he was in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And after he lost at WrestleMania 6, Bobby slapped Andre the Giant. He's like, you lost, what the hell you doing, da-da-da-da, and slaps Andre.
Oh, God.
Andre hits him, and then he leaves. So... when I was just funny because Giant Gonzalez in the ring, Harvey Wolfman's berating him, and this is where I caught the whole Bobby Heenan's like, oh, you own it, you're his charge, he's your charge, you pay his bills, slap him, and I'm like, Bobby, you slapped Andre, how did that work out for you?
Right.
This man is taller than Andre the Giant, legitimately taller than Andre by a good 4 or 5. Okay, build, because I like looking this shit up.
Right.
Andre the Giant was billed at 7 foot tall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Andre was billed at 7'4".
Okay.
Build wise,
Mm-hmm.
we're just you're using your build height, right?
Right. You usually go a little higher.
Yeah, even build. Giant Gonzalez is still a good 8 inches taller than Andre the Giant.
Wow.
And you want to slap him? So either way. So Harvey Wolfman gets in his face. Giant Gonzalez ain't gonna take that shit. Straight up choke slams friggin' Harvey Wolfman.
That was a very tame choke slam too. Like he could have gotten him way higher, but it probably would have been dangerous.
Well, yeah, it's what Giant Gonzalez wasn't that good in the ring. Also, Harvey Wolfman was not a trained wrestler.
Okay, yeah. Knowing that, I can see why it was as tame as it was.
Also, this is also a Giant Gonzalez face turn.
What?
Yeah. Because there's actually a moment, like I think it was on Superstars or something, they were actually going to work towards, there was at least an interaction in the ring between Giant Gonzalez and an Atom Bomb. So they might have been working towards a series between Giant Gonzalez and Atom Bomb.
Not sure I want to see that.
No. There was a match where Giant Gonzalez comes out in street clothes. Like I think it was like on a Superstars or something like that. Honestly, this was the last thing Giant Gonzalez did. I think he did. They're going to have a battle royal on Raw in about a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, this was Giant Gonzalez was gone before the end of the year.
Gotcha.
Like this is not counting that Battle Royal. This is really the last thing he did.
Okay.
I think we'll see him on the show maybe one more time.
Okay.
We do get speaking of promos, we do get a great promo from Jim Cornette. I know you love your Jim Cornette.
Mm-hmm.
About Luger, Yoko, and everything. This was awesome.
Yep, got our squeaky voice Joe Fowler again.
Yeah. Hey, Jim Cornette. Yokozuna's gonna be fighting Lex Luger. What do you think about that?
What do you think he thinks about that?
He called him Hatchet Head.
Oh, God.
Jim called him Hatchet Head. And it was a Jim Cornette promo. He said 775 words in 2 minutes.
He is very good at doing that.
Yeah. No, this is what Jim Cornette did.
Right.
So we get our penultimate match. It is the 6-man tag. I call it Team John Wayne. It's the Smoking Guns of Tatanka versus Bam Bam Bigelow and the Head Shrinkers. And here's a question, Vince. So he's talking about, he's like, Bobby had said Tatanka was going after Luna.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, Tatanka wouldn't go for a woman like Luna. Why not, Vince? Tell me why. How do you know what Tatanka likes? Well, why wouldn't he like Luna, Vince?
Well, we're waiting.
Why wouldn't Tatanka like Luna? Honestly, you know what? This was a great match. This was my second favorite match of the night.
Yeah, this was absolutely solid as well.
Yeah, and as good as this match was, you know what else made me happy?
Do tell.
Bobby started talking about Meadow Muffins again.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I got excited. I actually put another Meadow Muffin reference. Explaining what Meadow Muffins were, which, cow shit. Because we got cowboys. And they did mention in the thing, remember how I mentioned that Billy Gunn went to college on a rodeo scholarship?
Yeah, they brought that up again.
They actually did they brought it, Bobby was like, oh, they probably went to college for rodeo. And I was like, oh, that really happened. And they actually did mention that it really happened for Billy Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was great.
Yeah.
I got what I wanted.
I didn't have there weren't a whole bunch of spots I took note of, but it was solid, but not too noteworthy for me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying there was spot after spot after spot, but this was a very enjoyable match to watch.
Yes.
And we get towards the end of the match. This was a relatively even match throughout the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
For your Ready to Rumble fans, we almost were going to get a 3/4 of a 4-post massacre. The Head Shrinkers, because Tatanka's down, the Head Shrinkers and Bam Bam all get on the top rope like they're going to give Tatanka a triple flying headbutt.
Oh yeah, that was wow.
Yeah, Tatanka rolls out of the way. Shenanigans ensues, and he rolls up Samu for the win.
Mm-hmm. 11 minutes, 17 seconds. Absolutely solid.
Yeah, great match. Once again, this was my second favorite match of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you want to talk about travesties. We're getting ready to watch we're getting towards the main event here.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to talk about a travesty. So, we get Joe Fowler backstage by the buses. Because, nowadays, buses are the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the big wrestlers have buses.
Yeah.
Easier for travel. They don't have to worry about, this, that, and the other. I think,
Mm-hmm.
I know, we all know, especially after WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes has one. I think Randy Orton has one. It's a thing. They can get on the bus and they can just rest and relax. They can do their whatever.
Right.
Anyways, so we go to the Lex Express. Hank is driving the bus. Good old Hank. Hank Carter. Why did they treat Hank like this? This is the man that's driving, I think they even said 9,000 miles. Why the fuck is he sitting in the driver's seat watching it on a 9-inch screen that's probably not much bigger than my fucking phone?
Good question. Why did I not think of that?
You look at the screen. Hank is on the TV screen.
Wow.
Can we not? Are we just, hey, thanks for everything, Hank. Sitting here on the bus. There's your tiny TV. And you're talking about a television from 1993. So we got a tiny, that looked like about a 9-inch?
I would agree with that.
A 9-inch CRT television for our bus driver that's been driving around the country. We couldn't have got Hank a backstage pass. We couldn't let him, tickets into the arena. No, just sit on the bus and watch it. Sit on the bus and watch it on a tiny television.
See, yeah, now you put it like that, that is pretty fucking disrespectful.
Yeah, I'm just like, what the fuck, man? God damn. And then, of course, Joe's like, hey, I'm going to ask a stupid question. Who do you think's going to win? The fuck you think Hank's gonna say, Joe?
Yeah, he asks a stupid question and he gets the obvious answer.
Yeah.
He thinks Lex Luger's going to win.
What do you think? Hank's gonna go bonsai?
Would have been the greatest plot twist ever if he had.
I honestly would have laughed I think because he would have been like, you know what, Lex was an ass. You know what, go Yokozuna. I honestly that would have made the whole segment for it. But no, it's like, yeah, we're gonna treat Hank like shit. So they go through. We do get the American national anthem sung, and of course, everybody, jingoistic America. We're gonna boo the guy singing the national anthem for Japan.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of disrespectful, but I get it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which. Once again, because I always have the shows up on my screen when I take notes, just because that's how I take notes.
Uh-huh.
They had the poster for SummerSlam on the wiki page. It was a picture of, and this is the official poster. Let me bring it up here so I can describe it. Yokozuna's on it. Bonsai dropping the American flag. Right?
Okay.
And it says SummerSlam. Fat chance.
Dude! Not appropriate.
I'm looking at it right now, and it says somebody has to stop him. But it's just the fact that it says SummerSlam, fat chance, with Yokozuna on the poster.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the tagline of SummerSlam. Fat chance.
I'm cringing so hard I think I might break my back.
I can hear it from here. But anyways, this was, and we get the Japanese national anthem, the special masters ceremonies, Randy Savage.
Mm-hmm.
Who he only wrestled at Wembley Stadium last year. Now he's the master of ceremonies for the main event.
Yeah. Aaron Neville is accompanying him to sing the U.S. national anthem. Apparently he's big in country music. I've never heard of him.
I've heard of him because he's a wrestling fan. He's made appearances before. I don't listen to him either, so I'm not I only familiar with him because of his singing style that everybody makes fun of.
Mm-hmm.
Because it almost sounds like you're going in and out sometimes.
Gotcha.
That's what I know him from. But this is about as much as I know him from. But it was... this match was extremely disappointing.
Yeah, it could have been so much more, but it just wasn't.
Was this the match you were talking about?
It was.
Yeah. Where it was just like... And, the whole thing where, Luger has his Star-Spangled brace over his arm.
Right, because he's got the metal plate.
Yep. And this match, this was just... It wasn't the worst match.
No.
But if this is the main event for the world title...
Like I said, it could have been so much more.
This match could have been on Raw. This was a Raw quality match.
Agreed.
There was just... It went back and forth, I'm trying to think... I can't find anything good to say about this match. The crowd wasn't even into it.
No, they were not.
If I was Hank, I'd be starting rooting for Yokozuna after this shit.
Ugh.
Hank was the best part about this whole thing.
And that was just a bit. It wasn't even the match.
Yeah. But, at one point, the match, there's really nothing to talk about the match. At one point, the ref's down, so they hit Luger with the salt bucket. He kicks out.
Mm-hmm.
He hits the forearm a couple times throughout the match. He hits the forearm one final time, knocks Yokozuna out of the ring, who gets counted out. So Lex Luger wins by countout, which means our world champion is...
Still Yokozuna after 18 minutes flat.
And it felt longer than 18 minutes. Here's the thing. Lex Luger technically does win the match.
Right.
Doesn't win the title. So we're going to celebrate like he just won the presidency of the fucking United States.
Because that makes sense.
We get confetti coming from the sky. We get balloons. Out comes Macho Man, and out comes the Steiners, and out comes Tatanka. Luger has a big-ass flag he's waving back and forth. They're putting everybody on his shoulders like he won the title. Like he won the presidency. I've seen friggin' elections that are less jingoistic than this shit.
Wow.
He didn't even win the title.
Yay.
So they go through this whole thing, right?
Right.
They go through all the replays and everything. They go back to... There's still a shot of Yokozuna who's still selling the forearm on the floor, covered in confetti and balloons.
Yeah, they had a montage of moments from the Lex Express set to the song 7 minutes 26 seconds from 1969 by Michael Nappy.
Yeah, that was actually supposed to be, the Lex Express song, I Need a Hero.
Right.
They replaced it on the network. That was actually the original Lex Express song.
Okay.
But no, they go through this whole thing, and then they go to throw to Luger's already backstage in the locker room. Yokozuna, they assume, because they say Luger's already backstage.
Right.
Yokozuna, so they go to backstage, quote unquote backstage. They go through the locker room, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yoko is still on the ground when we assume that Luger's in the locker room, covered in confetti and balloons. Why?
Yeah, he didn't win the title. What's to celebrate?
But the fact that they're still celebrating in the locker room, and Yoko's still on the ground.
Ugh.
There's a moment in WCW that very reminiscent in Road Wild where, I told you that was the ones where they did the shows at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
Right.
Giant was the champion. Hogan beats him, right? Hits
Okay.
him with the belt, beats him. So the whole time, the NWO is celebrating in the ring. There's cake and everything. Giant has to lay on the ground in the ring the whole time with the celebrating for like 5 minutes.
Oh, God.
This is what this reminded me of.
Huh.
Yeah, I know. References.
References.
I got a shitload of them. So anyway, they're in the locker room. Apparently, because, Tatanka was in his ring gear, right?
Right.
So by the time they get to the locker room, apparently Tatanka's already got a towel wrapped around his waist. Apparently he had a quick shower in about 4 seconds. Because why is Tatanka have a towel wrapped around his waist?
Good question.
He's not in his ring gear. And so they talk about this, and here comes Borga, who says he's calling out Luger. He's coming for the, Luger.
Coming for the title, Luger didn't win.
Fade to black.
And that's how it ends.
Yeah. I mean, other than the Undertaker match and how underwhelming the world title match was, this was a good show.
I'd rate this a B.
Yeah. Like, I talked kind of crappy about the Intercontinental title match only because it wasn't a bad match. I just didn't get what I was expecting with the guys of that caliber.
Right. I agree with you on that count.
Yeah. Once again, my favorite match was the tag title match between the Heavenly Bodies and Steiner Brothers. Amazing match.
I think that's going to be my 1B. I'm going to say my 1A was the entire segment between Lawler and Brett.
That was probably close to, a half an hour?
And it didn't feel like half an hour. It moved well.
Yeah, it was great. That's just like, Jerry Lawler is very good on the microphone. We got Doink for surprise. We're both fans of Doink, at least the Matt Bourne version of Doink.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, we're not going to get much more of this Doink anymore because he's going to turn face here shortly. And face Doink is not as good as heel Doink. And Matt Bourne is not going to be Doink for much longer.
Yeah, I saw that when I was looking stuff up.
So this is basically the swan song of Doink.
Okay.
Face Doink is not good. Wait till he comes out with Dink, his wrestling midget buddy.
Oh, God.
Doink and Dink. But no, overall, I would, I'll give this a solid B too, because, even the Marty Jannetty Borga match was just an extended squash match, was not bad. Mm-hmm. Every match did what it needed to do. Joe Fowler needs to hit puberty. Like, honestly, once I told you that what it reminded me of, you're going to see that every time now.
I will never unsee it.
Guys, we're here backstage at SummerSlam. Homer Simpson in a cage match with Ned Flanders. There was a Simpsons wrestling video game.
Oh, there was. I forgot about that.
Crock of shit.
That's unfortunate.
It was on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
It was a crock of shit. It was not good. There's been good Simpsons video games. Simpsons Hit and Run is actually one of my favorite ones.
I've heard good things about the Simpsons game as well, but I've never played.
Yeah, it's actually pretty underrated. It's based on the movie-ish, I think. I played a little bit at the beginning. I liked it, but in my opinion, the best Simpsons game out there, because most Simpsons games are garbage, Simpsons Hit and Run.
Yeah, that's another one I haven't played. Like, I really liked Bart's Nightmare back on the Super Nintendo.
I can give you the synopsis of Simpsons Hit and Run in 4 words.
And that is?
Simpsons Grand Theft Auto.
I've heard it described like that.
Yeah, it's a very open world GTA style game, but it's The Simpsons.
I may have to look into that. You said it was on PlayStation?
You're talking like the PlayStation 2 Xbox era.
Okay.
That's my favorite Simpsons game. And I played Bart versus the Mutants. Was it Bart versus the Mutants?
Space Mutants.
Space Mutants. I played it as a kid. I couldn't get past the first level. That game's not that good.
Yeah, I remember playing that too. It was really cryptic about how you were supposed to do what you were supposed to do. It
was very like, the first level was very They Live. If you've seen the movie, you understand it. And then what was the other one? Bart versus the World?
Yeah, those were both on the 8-bit Nintendo.
Yeah, not that good.
No.
There wasn't a good Simpsons game. Well, if you like phone games, there's a Simpsons phone game that's very good.
Oh, cool.
It's a gacha game, sort of, kind of. because it's a world building game where Springfield blows up thanks to Homer, and you rebuild Springfield. It's like a SimCity style game where you can get special character, certain characters, and it's very seasonal, and you can get different, like all the famous Simpsons buildings, and you just rebuild
gotcha.
Springfield.
Neat.
But that's basically what it is. It's like Simpsons SimCity. It's honestly, for a mobile game, it's not bad. There's a Family Guy one that's very similar.
Cool.
And the Family Guy one actually has like John Cena and The Undertaker as like special characters. But tangent aside, this actually, I'm going to say this right now. I said at the top of the show, this was the best pay-per-view of so far. Like I said, I haven't seen Survivor Series 93 in a while. And out of context, I don't remember not liking it. I remember thinking it was pretty good. But with the hindsight of us doing all these shows, I want to see how it compares to SummerSlam 93. But for right now, SummerSlam 93 is my favorite WWF pay-per-view of 93.
Agreed, 100%.
So, yep. So that is going to be Dropkicks and Attractions for this week, folks. We are going to go all WCW next week. We are going to do 3 episodes of WCW Saturday night to make sure we get everything all cut up to date because of Raw not being on for 2 weeks. So, all WCW next week.
And then the week after, it'll be back to a Raw and a Saturday night.
Yes. So we're closing in on Fall Brawl, and apparently we're already on the road to Survivor Series 3 months out. Awesome. Yes, you can find us on YouTube, on Rumble, and most podcasting sites. Once again, thank you everybody for the support. You guys have been fantastic. We've actually, since we came back this third time, our numbers have been the best we've ever had.
Oh, yeah, it's very encouraging.
Ridiculously consistent. So we appreciate everybody. Growth every week. This is fantastic. Where can we find you and your project, sir?
I am at BigBoxed, BIGBOCT, on pretty much all the socials. Big.boxed on Instagram, which I'm trying to use more. I'm still workshopping Texploration like I've been trying to. I've just kind of having trouble like I said, I'm still working on trying to find ways to describe the things I want to talk about without just rehashing what other people have said. Where can we find you, Xander?
Xander Victor's everywhere. Yay, branding. Twitter, Instagram, I'm really trying to get that out. I have yet to take one post on Instagram. I say I'm going to do Instagram. I never do. You can follow, if you want to follow my dead Instagram, go ahead. TikTok, while it's so legal. Twitch, I do all WWE content on Twitch. Mondays and Tuesdays, we've been playing My Faction on Mondays and Tuesdays. Thursdays and Fridays, we were doing My Rise. I think I'm getting pretty close to the end of the My Rise for the female. So I'm finishing up the moveset for my technical slasher, which is basically me. So we'll be doing Xander 3 shows. And then I've been slowly working on the movesets for all the characters for the universe mode, my universes. I did have, also on YouTube, I had a video I just posted a few days ago on YouTube going over My Faction. I go through all the different menus and how My Faction works. So if you're looking to figure out how to play My Faction, go follow me on YouTube, watch the new video. Yeah, basically all wrestling all the time. So once again, thank you everybody for coming to Dropkicks and Attractions, and we will see you next week.
Take care.